Hello, everyone. Home inspections is one of those areas in real estate transactions that probably causes the most amount of anxiety for buyers and sellers because there's surprises that pop up and that they didn't realize, and there's always money involved. So we got great professionals here, Andrew and Paige from Pillar to Post. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
So I'm Andrew with Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. My partner Paige there. We opened the business about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years, and we've been rolling through and loving what we do and just trying to ensure confident home ownership.
Yes, throughout Monterey, Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Santa Clara counties. So we have a really large territory. So
That's great. And Brandy, tell a little bit about yourself before we go on the slides.
Hi, I'm Brandi Jones. I am a realtor in the Santa Cruz County area. I also work Santa Clara, Monterey. I'm at Keller Williams Thrive with Maaret, my broker. I love her. And been in the business 22 years and by far have had the best time working with Paige and Andrew when it comes to buyers or sellers and home inspections. They truly are human. They're great humans and they're exceptional professionals.
well, thank you. That's so nice. We love
Yeah.
working. We love
I'll
working.
take that 20 later. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I've been in the business about the same time, over 20 years, and I think I've probably been to maybe the amount of inspections I've been to is in the hundreds for sure.
Right.
Yeah, so we've had our share of inspections. So we're going to be covering what to expect from a home inspection, what is an as-is sale, what kind of red flags we should be looking for when we're getting that inspection report, how we can use the inspection report in the negotiations. And then in the end, we have Q&A, and anybody who is here, you can put your questions in the Q&A section. We'll check in there. So what is a home inspection? It's a professional visual examination of homes, major systems, and structures. And we're gonna let Andrew explain more details on what the inspector checks. What do you do when you get to the property, Andrew?
I'm checking everything. Really equate me to like a general practitioner doctor. I'm looking at everything, seeing if there's any deficiencies, and then recommending a specialist accordingly. Obviously, if it's electrical, it'll be an electrician. Plumbing will be a plumber, roofer, a roofer, etc. So I'm getting up on top of the roof if it's walkable, if it's safe to do so. I'm up in the attic. I'm on the outside, the living space, the crawl space if there's one. I'm getting in every nook and cranny of that house I possibly can to determine if there's any deficiencies and how to go forward for that confident home ownership we talked about.
I love the doctor analogy. That's great. General doctor, general practitioner. That's a good way of explaining it.
A little
Yeah.
bit of jack of all trades, so to speak.
Well, I was gonna say you also give an inventory, like a car manual. Like this is your hot water heater. This is the age. This is the approximate age of XYZ. And so it's also like a user manual.
That is very true. Yes, it's not all bad in the report. We do primarily write up deficiencies that need to be addressed, but yes, we're going to explain where the water heater is, the furnace, the air filters for the furnace, your main systems like electrical shutoff if there's an emergency, kind of go over where to shut the gas off if need be, water, right? So yeah, we are touching on all that as well. My main goal is to inform as much as possible. I just want to provide you with as much knowledge as you're willing to get about that house. And that report can be referenced later for years to come as well.
Right. It's kind of like a good handbook.
Yes.
And what do you do not check?
So we're primarily focused on the main structure itself. There are specialty systems like you can see up there, sewer lines, septic lines, those type things will need to be a specialist come in. It's a visual inspection by nature. We're not causing any damage. I'm not going to open up a wall, be destructive in any way. So as long as I can see the issue and get to it, that's what I'm reporting on. Now, we do have some fun tools like we are certified residential thermographers that can help us identify problems inside of walls, like maybe a second story plumbing leak that's coming down to the first floor. that can help. We do have moisture meters and fun little tools like that. But, it's primarily a visual inspection in nature. Yeah, like I said, I'm getting in all those places and trying to do the overall health assessment of the home. Sorry, go ahead.
But your company does you can order those specialty inspections through you also, correct?
Yes, certain things like termite as well. I don't necessarily perform those inspections, but we do work closely with a company that does, and we can help schedule that on your behalf. It's called a wood destroying organism report. I may make a reference to, hey, there's some wood rot over here from this leaking gutter. So, in reference to the wood destroying organism report for further information. So I will have little tidbits of that in my report, but they're the ultimate ones that have the say in that.
Right. And then, of course, in Santa Cruz County, we have ordinances, point of sale ordinances that require the seller to do the sewer lateral septic inspections, for example. That's something you need to check on. The different counties have different rules on that, but typically the seller would do those.
Yeah, and that's where you would want your realtor to advise you, whether you're a buyer or seller, what's point of sale, because that, as we all know, can show up as a surprise. So that's where an educated professional on the real estate side is really helpful.
Right. And so, Brandi, why would anybody want to be at their inspection?
Well, I want to say, first of all, the reason I started off with Andrew being such a good human is that the reason, in my opinion, a person, so let's just pick a buyer wants to be at an inspection is because they get their 35-page home inspection, let's say a seller provided it and Andrew did it originally, and now Andrew's going to walk them through. That's an analogy. Regardless, you're looking at 35 pages and you don't really know what it means. Let's say Andrew didn't do the inspection and you're just now hiring him and he's about to do the inspection. Again, there's something about learning face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball, person to person. You can understand that he's a professional, what he's looking at. You can ask deeper questions. And it's like the mechanic. He's got the doctor analogy. I've got the car analogy. Hey, this is your battery. This is what happens when you need to charge it. And so you're like hands-on and you can like experience what he's telling you instead of just reading this report. So in my opinion, whether a report is already provided or this is the first report, you want to be there and harass Andrew.
Right. And then in my experience, it is when you just read the report, lots of the things they could either sound worse or they could sound not that such a big deal. But when you're actually looking at what if it's a damage somewhere and you're like, oh, that, is not so bad, maybe, or it's something that's more significant that needs more investigation.
That's where I want to go into the fact that it's a home inspector. And Paige, you can chime in on this. You have certifications that qualify you to do the home inspection. And one of those guidelines is you're not quoting to do the work. Mm-hmm. So that way you have to be this third party that is just observing. I mean, you can chime in on that more so that they understand.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we are not providing an estimate for us to come out there and repair the work. The termite company, that's something that they can do. So that is something that is nice when you get a termite inspection or WDO inspection. They can quote for tenting or spot treatment or dry rot if that's needed. But in a home inspection, you're not going to see us saying, oh, it's going to cost you $2,000 to replace your hot water heater. That's just not something that we're going to say. So that is important to know that we are neutral. And we're not just looking to like make money on a repair or something like that. Because sometimes people think that.
For sure. Contractor, you get somebody in and you just don't know if they want to just sell a job for,
yeah. Absolutely. Well, and pricing can always vary, right? I mean, you can go get a $100 faucet, but you can also go get a $2,000 faucet. So I mean, it really depends on who, what your team.
Sounds like you've been remodeling recently.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. Golden faucets for everyone.
Yes.
I think that's really important because when a home inspection, what people don't realize is it has a huge emotional barrier and weight with it. You think you're going to meet somebody, you're going to learn about the home, but what happens is in this ether, you start panicking about pricing and what's going on. And having that third party, like neutral position means you can trust what you hear. Now, obviously, we're all human. We have to see everything. But again, that regulation that goes down over the home inspectors, you have a trusted advisor. And that's why I think Pillar to Post is so great. You are coming in as a trusted advisor. So a seller might think you're bitching about the house, and a buyer might think that it's falling down. But the reality is they take the scope and say, like, this is home ownership. You know,
Yeah.
you and your realtor can pick out what's worth it to you, what's not worth it to you. And we'll get into that later. I know Maaret's got that going.
Well,
Yeah.
no house is perfect. I mean, even brand new builds, there's little things that pop up. So it could be a 100-year-old house, it could be brand new. So there's always going to be like a little bit of something that is going on. There's nothing ever perfect, right, Andrew?
Nothing's ever perfect.
And then we have this as is sale house here that is obviously seen its better days.
It's $3 million. Just kidding. Sorry, Maaret. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you want to share about the as is sale, what it actually means, Brandi?
Well, it was a great transition. Thank you, Maaret. When you are looking at a brand new build, California provides some sort of builder warranty to the consumer or the buyer of that property. But most of the sales that happen in this county, or most of you watching, are going to be buying something that has been built and has been lived in. And the state of California, CAR, California Association of Realtors, provides a form in which you write an offer to go purchase a property called an RPA. That is a 28-page offer paperwork. You could call it whatever you want slang. It's an offer, 28 pages. On paragraph 7B is where it states this entire offer that you're offering the seller is an as-is sale. And therefore, buyer, it's up to you to decide to figure out what as is to you. So you may look at this report that you get from whomever, and what does it mean to you? At $15,000 deck repair may be the end of the world for you, or it may be easy peasy. So as is means the seller does not give you warranty that they are required to do any repairs on any of the reports unless it's government regulated, and that you are purchasing it in its current condition.
Exactly. And as far as negotiations go, then we can just jump on that. Whereas I have a contract that's an as is sale. We have some items that are discovered. Any red flags, we're going to do further investigation. So we're going to potentially call in the plumber or somebody else to look deeper into it and generate a bid. And even though it's an as-is contract, there are options for the buyer to choose on what they want to do and how they want to move forward. The buyer can cancel if it's a too big a deal. They don't want to even deal with it. They have that option. They can ask for seller credits for the amount of repairs. They can ask for the seller to repair the items that need to be repaired, or they can do a price reduction. And going through these different versions, so seller credit would be something that you have the specialist come in and generate an estimate for the repairs. The agent prepares paperwork to ask for seller to credit that dollar amount towards buyer's closing costs at escrow. The second option is to ask the seller to make those repairs. On the other hand, if you just get a credit, the buyer can hire whoever they want to do that work, and they can do it in the way they want to. Maybe they want to actually do some remodel at the same time or do something completely different. So seller credit gives the buyer more options and decision power on how they want to use that money. Seller repairs can be a little bit more protection in case there are further issues that come up, because they will need to take care of the whole thing typically. A third option would be a price reduction. And unless it's a cash transaction, we usually don't go that route, but that is another option.
So I'm going to try, so while you guys are listening out there, let's say there's a house in Watsonville you want to buy, and you and your realtor get together and you go write an offer and you get accepted. What Maaret is saying, there's a contingency period for you, buyer. It's called a physical contingency, where you get to figure out what as is. And in this example in Watsonville, we hire Andrew to come out. He does a home inspection. You walk with him. There's a crack in the foundation, let's say. Andrew says you need to get further investigation on that. While you're still in your contingency period, you get a contractor, whoever you know, and they say, oh yeah, that crack in the foundation will cost you $15,000. Whoever's going to repair it will cost $15,000. Here's your bid. By the time we've had all the inspections and all the reports, you and your realtor are going to sit down and say, here's what as is now to you. Now you know there's $15,000 to make this repair. How would you like to proceed? At one point, you can say, it's too much for me. It's the foundation. I'm not moving forward. I'm in my right to cancel and keep my deposit. So then you're done and you move on. If you're like, I absolutely love this house. The contractor said that $15,000 it will be fine. The foundation's not that bad. We'll take care of this, that, and the other thing. It would be, we want to know the best way to handle this. And that's a really intimate conversation between you, your realtor, and potentially your lender. So sometimes, as Maaret is saying, like, you can get a seller credit. That means when you close escrow, the seller will deduct from their proceeds $15,000 if they've agreed, and you will now gain $15,000 in the escrow. That is 100% transfer of value. If you ask the seller to do the repairs, they usually need to be done before close of escrow. And again, that's another 100% transfer of value. A price reduction, if you're getting a loan, is not 100% transfer of value. You're putting 20% down and getting an 80% loan. That price reduction only puts 20% of that $15,000 in your pocket. So as you can see, this gets really convoluted, and why a good home inspector helps you understand what as is, because once you know what it is, what does it really mean to you?
Right. We've explained it in a couple different ways now, and I hope it makes sense.
So if I were to ask, right, if I were a home buyer, would I, after we have this conversation, Brandi, you're my realtor. It kind of sounds like maybe a seller credit may be the best way to go in some cases, because you're getting that $15,000 back in your example, whereas a seller repair, I mean, that could delay escrow, right?
Typically speaking, what we generally see is that if it can be done now, here's another nuance to this. The lender does dictate how much of a credit you can get, but let's say we're allowed to get a $15,000 credit. That puts all that money, value to value, 100% to the buyer. The buyer does have to make that repair. So it is time on the buyer's side to make that repair. If the seller does it, where it impacts the escrow is you cannot close until that is repaired. And depending on like a foundation crack, or if it's the septic, what if it takes 6 weeks?
Yeah.
So then that impedes a lot of people's moving plans. It could change your interest rate. So overall, and generally speaking, you're right, Paige. Most people lean towards the seller credit.
One other thing about this is you have an older home and you have a purchase price for it. You have a contract for that. And then you do the inspection, and then all of a sudden there's kind of a lot of repairs estimates that are coming in, and the dollar amount goes up and up. It might be going up to 30, 40,000, for example. It does not automatically mean that you would ask for all of that as a credit. The value of the home is separate from whatever potential repairs are involved. So it does not go dollar to dollar. We're going to go and ask for 40,000 price reduction or credit. The value of the home, you want to look at it, what you had, the original agreement, you have the repairs, and then build that into the value of the contract value of the property that you're paying for.
Well, and I think that's another excellent point, Maaret, is that we live in an area, whether it's Monterey, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, San Benito, there is not one single property that is exactly the same as the next property. So because you have a value or you have an agreed price, that location itself, you really don't have a percentage that you can say this part of this neighborhood is exactly $175,000 more to the next. And because you have a $15,000 foundation thing, or $30,000 because it's older or whatever, that is the exact deduction. It's hard sometimes for buyers to not understand. It's just not exactly like that. We just don't have exact homes. We have age difference. It lives differently. So that's why as is how is it for you? If it is a $50,000 repair and you don't have the funds and you want to ask the seller for it, the seller does not have to agree. The seller is not obligated. That's the warranty part. They do not have to agree to any of your requests.
Well, that's a really good point, because I know when Andrew's inspecting that, sometimes what buyers are concerned about is different based on what kind of a buyer you are. So if you're an investor that's going to flip it, you might have some different concerns than somebody that plans to, live there for the next 30 years and have all their kids and grandkids. So it really does depend on the buyer as well.
Absolutely. What the buyer needs are. The same home can be the most valuable thing for one person and maybe something else for another person. But we have the choice. And then we have questions from real home buyers. And we're going to just go through these and let's see. Should I be there for the entire inspection or can I just read the report afterward? Who wants to answer this?
Andrew, you answer it.
Yeah, you answer that. I might have something to add at the end, but go ahead.
So should you be there for the inspection? Yes. Granted, I know work, kids, whatnot, definitely understand. I would at least show up for part of it, maybe toward the end, so I could give a nice debrief at the end. But we will go over the issues. We can always circle back on a phone call as needed. Definitely take some time, read the report. It will be a lot of information in there and just digest it. But definitely I recommend highly at least show up for a portion of it. Like I said, maybe toward the end of it.
Can I chime in a little bit on that? This is science, everyone. Scientists have proven that when we read something, we retain up to 7%. And when we hear something, we retain up to 35%. And when we experience it one-on-one, we retain up to 98%.
That's a great statistic.
Wow.
It might have been 89%. I think it's 89%. Regardless, I bleached my hair. There you go.
We're going to have to fact check on you.
Yeah. In that realm. But my point is that Andrew is really sharing science as well.
Yeah. Well, and that makes a lot of sense because there are times where people are not able to make it. And that is where sometimes the biggest disconnect is between us as inspectors and realtors and buyers is when people are not present. So I do think it is very important. And then in our booking email, we do give you an estimate of how long the inspection is going to take. So typically like 3 to 4 hours, we say show up for the last 30 minutes. A lot of times people will let us know when we do our confirmation before that the buyer's going to show up around 11:30. So the inspector knows to expect them. So
I'm going to go to Andrew's doctor analogy. This is your baby. You're going to go to your 6-month checkup, right? You're not going to miss it.
Yes.
And I will just say one more thing that, I mean, sometimes when you read the report, perfect example, like a plumbing leak in a crawl space, right? Oh my God, how bad is it? I'll have pictures in the report, but obviously when you hear leak, you think worst case scenario. Sometimes it's just a little drop coming down. You got a wet spot on the crawl space ground. Not too bad. It's going to be pretty straightforward, easy fix for a plumber. Probably take them 30-ish minutes or something like that. Easy peasy done compared to, oh my God, the crawl space is now flooded. So that there is that disconnect when you could read it in a report thinking it's a lot worse than it is versus the easy fix that it could be. Not going to say that's every scenario, but it just helps you gain that understanding.
There's another great thing you do, Andrew, is like there are people, remember our grandparents worked on their own homes and they had quality work. Andrew can also help you like, hey, if you want to do this yourself, you could go to Home Depot, grab this, grab that. That might be able to be a solution. So there's a userness of like, hey, I want to do this myself. I don't want to rely on a contractor for everything.
Exactly. This next question is really good, I think. What are the most important questions I should ask my inspector on site?
So I'll go ahead and take that one as well. So is touched on a little bit earlier. Every buyer is going to be a little different. They're going to be concerned about certain issues that maybe others wouldn't be. So I like to always ask from my clients, do you have any concerns? It's one of the first questions I always ask so I can understand those concerns going into this and I can address those first and foremost. Now, what you should ask me is what are maybe my top 5 concerns or 3 concerns or whatnot, the big ticket fixes or safety issues. And I will be straight with you, say, okay, this deck is probably going to be the biggest cost you're going to incur. This electrical panel is had a recall. It might be very smart to change that out. Certain things like that. But now, like I said, if I understand your concerns with the place, I can address those concerns first and foremost and talk with those and make sure I touch base on those with you.
And so, Brandi, maybe you can help me with this one too, but I know insurance is really big. And so when people are asking, or when bigger ticket items, so like the electrical panel, sometimes the roof, those things may affect insurance. Would those be things that you would advise your clients to really look at the home inspection?
I like Andrew's intro that it's really buyer specific, but I will say this. there is the group of insurance where your roof is important, your water leak detector, if you have one or don't have one, and if your electrical panel. In addition to what area are you in? Are you in the San Lorenzo Valley? Are you in Monterey? So what's the wood look like? Because we know we have fog. We know that termites swarm twice a year. Hey, we're at elevation. What does drainage look like? So it is buyer specific and property specific, because there are generalities that we want to make sure that are seen because it is consistent with that location.
Right. But and also key item that you mentioned was the safety. So any of the safety concerns is obviously something that everybody should know. And I think in your reports, you do highlight the safety items. So it's clear.
Yeah, so up front in the report, in our reports, when you read them, we have the report summary, and that's going to be, in our opinion, what is going to be possibly a major fix ticket item, any safety concerns, things that are degenerative in nature, like such as like a plumbing leak underneath the sink, right? Left alone, it would only get worse. So those are always going to be first and foremost in the front of the report. Now, some people might not necessarily care about certain things, like proper graspable handrails on stairs. A 2x4, 2x6 isn't considered adequate. That would go into the summary. But again, buyer specific. They might be a young first-time homebuyer couple in their mid-20s. They don't really care about a handrail, whereas maybe somebody elderly, your grandmother's moving into a place, maybe she does care about a proper graspable handrail. So again, more kind of buyer specific, but the safety items, larger ticket fix things, and things degenerative in nature will always be first and foremost in the report.
Exactly. All right, next question. Is it better to ask for credit, have the seller make repairs, or negotiate a price reduction? We already touched on this a little bit. Brandi, you want to answer this?
I think that we really did touch on it earlier. So I would say I know not everybody loves this answer. It's specific to you. And generally speaking, a credit is where people go.
Yes. How do I know what's reasonable to ask for versus what's going to blow up the deal? Ooh. This is where you need a good agent, right?
I'm gonna let Brandi handle that one.
Yep, that's a Brandi question.
Well, I think, Maaret, you touched on it, and that is not everything requires a request. So there is a variance between you get the opportunity to buy this house in an area where there is not a lot of houses like it, if at all, and at this specific time. So just because we'll use the analogy again, $30,000 worth of things, we really need to investigate what are the health and safety issues, what's the structural issue, and you come down to our analogy before was in Watsonville, there was a $15,000 foundation report. That $15,000 foundation report in that example is a big deal because that's the structure of your house. But let's say the other $15,000 was, oh, you might need to repair this one day, and oh, you might need that. It's hard to say, but typically the bigger items are the ones that get negotiated. The onesie twosies, like you need a GFCI outlet and you want the seller to pay for it, that starts to rub the seller the wrong way. And remember, the seller does not have to agree to your request. Everybody wants to get to the end of the line, but the seller is not required to agree to your request.
Exactly. And also, so you don't get anything unless you ask. So you can ask. You can ask. You just want to be strategic. We don't know what the seller is going to decide. Maybe they really want to sell. Maybe there's other circumstances in their life that we don't know, and they might be fine with it. So you need to have a really good agent that communicates with the other side agent and has a feeling of what is happening there, and then make a reasonable, a request that is likely to get a best response.
I'm gonna give everyone a secret right now.
Ooh,
I know.
Here's the secret. It is not what you say, it's how you say it. And in our analogy, we got accepted and we have a contingency period. Your job is to find out what as is means on everything, and that you go in once with everything and say, this is what I want, and I will be ready to release this contingency period and commit to closing. That is the secret to success. Because if you start in this as is contingency period and you find this and this and this, and you ask each time, you are likely going to lose the seller and they're likely not going to want to work with you.
Right. And homeowners get defensive. It's their home. Lots of hard work has gone into fixing things here and there throughout the years, and lots of money as well. And they can get offended on somebody coming in and saying like, hey, your house it needs this and this.
Right. That's why it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And it's even, I don't get to talk to the seller if I'm representing the buyer. Well, I personally don't double end. I have to talk to their agent. So I have to have them understand our point of view without them shutting down too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We have a few more questions. What inspection findings should make me walk away from a house? That's the same question essentially. It's up to a person, depending what's important to you and what your financial resources are, what the value of the property is, otherwise. In a competitive market, should I weigh my inspection to win the offer?
And that's not
giving real estate advice.
I was going to say, like, I'll come from being educated by attorneys in real estate. As a realtor, I will not recommend that.
Yes.
Other realtors will, because sometimes that is what it takes to win. I will always recommend having 3 days because you still cannot read all the paperwork, walk through the property and know it as it is. I don't recommend it.
Sometimes it's a simple property, for example, a condo. And if you do have all the reports beforehand, and if you have ability to go to the property maybe a couple times, maybe even bring somebody with you that is very, like a contractor to take a look at it. And if the market demands for removal of contingencies, and that's the only way you can get the property.
Yeah, I think the truth of the matter is it doesn't matter what I recommend or an attorney recommends. The competitive market, it will force a buyer to decide, I either waive this or I do not even get the house. And that exists.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's the one thing you wish every buyer knew about home inspections? Andrew Paige.
Paige, go ahead, kick it off. You deal with a lot of phone calls.
What is one thing every buyer wish they knew about inspections? That we are finding what we see, right? So we are trying to make this process really simple for you, and we're not trying to come in there. Sometimes people think that home inspectors are just kind of like agitating and we're trying to like pick things apart and be nitpicky, and we're really not. We're really there to help you and to kind of cover you in some ways, because there are things that do come up, and to be able to have the home inspection and have that, it can be very helpful to you if things kind of escalate after the fact.
And then we found a major structural issue, 20,000 porch rot. Should I ask for the full amount or expect to split it? We talked about this too. Brandi, you want to
chime in on that one? Because I think the key words here, we found a major structural issue. It was not disclosed to them before they wrote their offer. Mm-hmm. And I think in that case, when you discover something that's major within your contingency period, it's entirely up to you, but that is new information. I believe you have the right to ask for the full amount.
There you go.
Awesome. Mic drop.
Yeah, great way to end it.
Yeah, go for full amount. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here. So here's Andrew and Paige's contact information. This QR code goes to the website. This is the best number to reach you, correct?
Yes.
831-884-6160. And then we have Brandi's contact information, her website, the QR code goes to the website. What is the best number to reach you, Brandi?
831-588-5145.
This goes to my contact information. We are available to anybody to answer questions about inspections, but other items as well. And then a quick disclaimer, this webinar is for informational and educational purposes only. It's not legal, tax, or construction advice. And then also, if you are already working with a realtor, either have a listing agreement or buyer broker agreement, this is not considered a solicitation for business. You need to talk to your own agent at that case. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.